Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild is an open-world adventure game created by Nintendo and released in 2017 for the Nintendo Switch. The game is largely unique within the genre in that, outside of the brief opening, the player is left completely to their own devices. The game never explicitly tells you what to do and where to go, so you're spurred on solely by your own sense of exploration and wanderlust. While this can initially seem quite intimidating for the player, it reinforces the idea that your experience within the world is defined by your own unique approach to it. Comparatively, because the game never tells you what to do, it also never tells you that you're not allowed to do something. Many contemporary games are labelled open world, but available missions and quests are littered across the map instead of being sought out by the player, meaning you spend more time staring at the corner of the screen and not interacting with the world in front of you.
The only difference between a non-linear game and a linear game in current terms is that in a non-linear game you get to spend a lot of time going from one area to another doing linear missions. Games have managed to basically shove linear, not that great gameplay down our throats by wrapping it up in a tortilla of non-linearity that's really just a big world that you run around in.
Moreover, these missions present themselves to the player simply as things to do, following them through a predetermined set of circumstances with a specific solution that punish the player with a game over screen if they attempt to carve out their own path. So while they may technically be open world and encourage exploration, because everything gets handed to you with minimal effort, there's no real incentive for the player to do so.
These two roads of game design can basically be seen as a tub full of Legos versus a particular Lego set. The assortment of different Legos just represent all the different gameplay mechanics and options that the player has. Now moving over to the Lego set here, this is a completely different kind of experience. The Legos in the set still represent the gameplay mechanics, but you're following a predetermined order. So when you finally finish your Lego creation, your creation and my creation are going to look very similar.
In Mason's The Discipline of Noticing, he talks about a concept called intentional noticing. Something more is needed if we're to learn effectively from experience. Noticing as an intentional stance towards our profession is enhanced by various practices which serve to support both picking up ideas and trying them out for ourselves. Indeed, the cornerstone of noticing as a method of inquiry is trying things out for ourselves rather than taking them on trust as a result of some statistical study, logical argument, or authoritative assertion. Breath of the Wild is built around this concept. We don't explore because we are encouraged by the game to do so via waypoints and quest markers. We explore because we are accelerated by our own sense of curiosity and discovery. We dedicate our time with the game noticing points of interest and locations in the distance that personally compel us to push forward, even if it results in our own failure. For example, if players are caught carrying metal equipment during a thunderstorm, they run the risk of acting as a human lightning rod. Being struck by lightning at first may seem unfair, but if the game were to warn you ahead of time, then most players would know to immediately adapt and miss out on the learning experience provided.
Just in terms of mapping and remembering, in both of those sort of suggest inscribing. One of them is inscribed in the book or the map in terms of space, and the other is sort of more inscribed in the mind or in the heart with place. So I'm really sort of trying to suggest that place is a much more emotionally connected, rooted understanding of place.
One of the quests that takes up a bulk of the game's story is recovering the player's lost memories. You get given 12 different photographs for locations around the world that, when found, will allow our character to recall a moment from his past. Outside of these photos that lack any proper context, you're told nothing and left to look for these places, based solely on how much or how little of the world you've traversed. Players have to resort to relying on their own memory and understanding of the world in order to progress with the narrative. The experience of Breath of the Wild is hinged on our own sense of discovery and exploration, as the people and places of Hyrule inextricably become linked within our memory. Through the player's own unique approach to the game, across time the once-thought empty space slowly transitions into place, as it becomes punctuated by our own unique successes, failures, and exploration within the world of Hyrule. In Mason's same reading on noticing, there is a quote cited from Italian journalist Italo Calvino. He remarked that, "It is only after you come to know the surface of things that you can venture to seek what is underneath. But the surface of things is inexhaustible."